Hello, everyone. This is Bushra. Like you all have known, Accenture has been lately hiring a lot via their on campus and off campus drives. And there have been so many drives going on every couple of months. So we have done a survey and we have tried to collect the questions that have been asked in the Accenture interviews. And today we are going to be discussing all of those questions. So let me quickly share my screen and let's discuss some of the questions. So first one, so now firstly, we are going to discuss questions that are technically being asked, and there are questions that are like, functional based, like the role based, the behavior based. So we will discuss each of them by the category, and then we will also try to conclude how the Accenture interview is driven, right? So now, if you first look at the question, now I have tried to categorize these under the technical ones. Then I have also tried categorizing questions on some generic questions where like the HR or the managerial rounds come in, and I've also tried to figure out what the Accenture process looks like. So now firstly, let's look at the first question. Firstly, they're going to ask you for the introduction, right? So no matter which interview you are sitting in, the first question that is going to be asked is going to be to introduce yourself. So how do you introduce yourself? Say now you are trying to get hired as a software engineer. So which means that your introduction should revolve around your experience or your growth or your skill set in that field. So now, firstly, you start with your name. What is your name, right? So if you go here, what topics are we trying to cover? We will say I am giving my name, right? And then what are you going to do after you have introduced? Say, my name is Bushra, and because you are a fresher, all of these drives have been conducted for freshers. You will tell which college you're coming from. Then you will tell what your field is. For example, I have done my master's, I have done my bachelor's in CSC. Then you will tell them that I am come from CSC. Then say whatever your strong points are, you will cover all of them. For example, say my CGPA is 9.35. So I will try to cover my CGPA under my introduction section, because whatever my strong points are, this is going to be. So there is this theory which says the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes of every session have to be really strong. So you create a good impact, right? So now, because your introduction is going to be covered in the first 5 minutes, you are going to cover all the strong points that you have. For example, my name is Bushra, and I have done my bachelor's in computer science and engineering, and I have done my bachelor's from Bangalore Institute of Technology. So once you give your introduction about the education, then you will cover all your strong points. My CGPA in my bachelor's was 9.35. And see, you have a good CGPA or good percentage in your 12th grade or 10th grade or whatever, right? Whatever achievements you have, you can cover all of them. I have cracked multiple hackathons. I have won multiple hackathons. I've participated in multiple hackathons. You can cover all of these. And then after you have done the general introduction where you've talked about your achievements, what you can next go to is your skill set. Say you are getting hired for a software engineer. Then you are going to cover whatever skills you have covered. For example, now I know, say, Java. So I'm going to tell the interviewer that I know Java, I know C++. I am very well versed with OOPS, the computer fundamentals like DBMS. Then we have operating systems. So whatever you know, whatever skill set you have, you're going to cover that in your introduction section. So I will give you a quick introduction that I would give for myself as a fresher, so you can get a little bit of idea about it. Hello, sir. Good morning. My name is Bushra, and I have done my bachelor's in CSC from Bangalore Institute of Technology. My CGPA during my bachelor's was 9.35. My percentage during my 10th board was 95. My percentage during my 12th board was 92. And I have participated in multiple hackathons, one of them being the SIH, or I have volunteered at multiple events. So I'm really fond of event management, besides the fact that I'm really good at my technical skills. I am very well versed with Java, C++, OOPS, DBMS operating systems. So computer world or the corporate world really fascinates me, and that's why I took up CSC as my main branch. So this is your introduction. So you are going to cover all the important topics which will help you get the job. So starting part, you can cover all the important things about you, your name, your field, your strong points, your background, or anything that you want, whatever you think is strong for you. But ensure that the introduction also has all the important points about your skills, like the skills that are going to get you this job, right? So you always have to cover those points, whatever your skill set are. So if you're getting hired for an analyst, then what does an analyst need to know? He needs to know SQL, MS Excel, or say he needs to know Python. So whatever whatever role you're getting hired for, whatever relevant skills you have, you can cover all of those under the introduction section. So this is one of the major points that you have to cover under the introduction. This is how you're going to introduce yourself. So let's look at the second question. Second question says discussion on projects. So I am going to give you an example so you have a better understanding. When I was in my college, I had done about 3 projects. So one of the projects being heart disease system. So like this is like a prediction of if a person has heart disease or not using ML algorithms. So at least 15 minutes or at least 10 minutes of your interview, say it is 30 minutes interview or say 45 minutes interview, then what happens is at least 10 to 15 minutes is going to be taken by your projects. So the interviewer will definitely ask you questions on the projects that you have worked on. That is why it is very important to be well versed with the projects that you have worked on. Now, like I said, right, a heart disease prediction system, right, using ML algorithms. This is one of the projects that I had worked on, right? So I have given multiple interviews since then, and then every time I've got asked questions on challenges faced, right? So if you have done any project, see, I know your curriculum also has 1 or 2 important projects that you have to cover during your bachelor's. So that's why major questions are going to revolve around what technologies you have used in the project that you have worked on, what challenges did you face. For example, now here in this heart disease prediction system, I had finally used 4 ML algorithms. Okay. So now the interviewers ask me questions like, out of all the algorithms, because there are thousands of algorithms, the machine learning algorithms, why did you choose these 4? Right? So now if you know a little bit about machine learning, you will know that there are supervised algorithms, semi-supervised algorithms, there are unsupervised algorithms, and each algorithm has some specification. Okay. So now say there's regression algorithm, then there is random forest. So all of these algorithms, if you look into, each of them has a specific purpose that they serve. Okay. Each of them is good at something. So why have you picked these algorithms and what made you pick these algorithms? So all of these questions are going to be asked, and you have to be really well versed with the project that you've worked on. It's not like, you've just worked on the project, you know what the project is about, what technology is used. But if you have really given your part, then you will know what challenges you faced, right? The challenges don't really have to be on the technical side. If you even had challenges coordinating with the team, you can talk about it. But the right approach is, after you talk about the challenges faced, you also have to cover how you overcame those challenges. For example, now I'm telling that it was really hard for me to coordinate with my teammates. After I told what my problem is, the right approach is to tell, I put in some effort. I tried making them understand that we really have to coordinate between each other for us to deliver the project well. And after I did that, we saw that we were able to coordinate and we were able to deliver the project, the PPT really well. So this is how you are going to cover the discussion on your projects. Okay. So there are going to be tech-based questions asked, like I said, like I covered, right? So what algorithms did you use and why did you use them? And what made you use them, and what are the specifications, what features can you add, what enhancements can you make? All of these questions are going to be asked. Okay. So you have to be prepared for all of that once you're getting into your project discussion. So your projects play a very, very important role. So that's why I want all of you to take this very seriously and be very well versed with your projects. So now we've covered this. Third one is internship experience. So the technical interview is also going to ask you if you have any experience in the past. Okay. Say you have worked as a web developer, right? Web developer in the, like say in a startup when you were in your 3rd year, right? So you can talk about this. If you have no experience, then you can cover it with a very positive note saying that I don't really have any experiences of now. I have done 1 month internship, or I have worked here or there, but I'm really looking forward to get my experience, and that's why I'm here today to give the interview. And I'm really hoping that I get this job, and that's why I will be able to work, because my goals align with your company's goals. I think I will be able to work on a lot of things via your company. So that is something that you can cover. And if you have some experience, say like a web developer or an app developer or anything like that, right? So then you can also talk about that, or like what all you worked on, what features you added, or what websites you built, or how it helped the startup or anybody, or if you've done something for your college, like you have made some attendance system, you have worked on this. If you can talk about all of that, so try to cover all of them on a positive note. And this is how we talk about the internship experience or any work experience that you have in the past. So the fourth point comes development or self work. So here, what you'd have to cover is, say you have done some web development, app development, you have learned a little bit about AI, ML, or any topic, any trending thing, or anything that is primitive also. So if you have done any kind of this work, I'm sure all of you are going to work on your project. So you will have to do a little bit of tech work anyway, right? So if you have worked on the front end part of your project, then you can cover that. If you've done the app development, you can cover that. Or if you have tried to build robotics project, you can cover that. Whatever thing you have worked on, right, you can cover in this section. You can talk about how you have learned, what skills you have learned. Like, for example, web development, I have learned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, how I use them in the project, how it has helped me, and how much experience I have, how I rate myself. You can talk about all of these in the development or self-work session. So fifth topic we have is certifications. Say you have gotten some certification from any, anywhere. Say you've gotten from Coursera, you have gotten it from Udemy, you have gotten it from your college, you have bought some course, you have gotten it from online study for you. Any platform that you got your certifications, if that is being asked, even if that isn't being asked, you can just tell them that I'm really well versed with web development. I also have a certification in web development from online study for you, or whatever it is, right? You can talk about that. So now the sixth topic comes role specific experience. Say they are going to hire you for an analyst role. So they will try to understand, they will always prefer candidates who have some experience or some knowledge on analyst role. So here the analyst requires all of these skills like we discussed, right? SQL, MS Excel, Python, etc., or even some BI tools, where visualization tools like Power BI, etc. So if you have any of the experience in any of these, what you can do is you can go and ask. I mean, you can just try to mention like, I have some experience in SQL and MS Excel. So if you have some role specific experience, you can mention that, and it will help you getting the job. Okay, so this was our sixth point. Moving to the next point, resume-based discussion. So I always keep telling everyone, right? So whatever you have mentioned on your resume, please be really well versed with that. Because if you lie on your resume, and because most of the questions that are going to be asked you are going to be resume-based. Whatever you have mentioned in your resume, questions are definitely going to be asked on that. So that's why I recommend all of you to be very, very honest with your resume. So think about this, right? The interviewer does not know you. He does not know that you exist. He does not know what your skill set is. He does not know what your weak and strong points are. All he knows you via is like a piece of paper that you have given to him called resume, right? So if you are very honest on your resume, if you mention skills that you really know about, then it is going to help you, because now the interviewer knows that these are the skills that you know, and he's only going to ask you questions on basis of your resume. And that's why it is very, very important for you to have that resume based discussion. So these were some of the technical questions that were asked. Now let's move to some of the interview experience. So these, we have done a survey, and we have tried to cover, I mean, we have tried to get in touch with the people who have given their interviews recently at Accenture, and these were the questions asked. So that's how we are going to cover these questions. So why did you choose these ML algorithms? Say you have worked on a project that involves some machine learning, right? So like I covered the question, right? If say there's the thousands of algorithms, There are supervised, there are semi-supervised, there are unsupervised algorithms. So why did you choose this algorithm? And why did you choose these algorithms? And how did they help you? And what are the functionalities? All of those questions are going to be asked. So now next question comes reverse a string. So I'm sure all of you have, this is like a very, very commonly asked question, especially in the Accenture interview. So how do you reverse a string? So if you're using C++, because this is my personal, like, preferred language, what you can go for is there's some reverse function. You can go for that, or you can run a loop where you can just swap the elements, or you can run a for loop where you are going n-1 to 0, and then you are printing. So there are multiple approaches, and funnily, all of them take complexity, the time complexity of OFN, right? So there are multiple approaches that you can go for, but what I would recommend is always start with a brute force approach. Always start with a very simple approach, and then explain them what other what other approaches you have in your mind and what you can think of. So that is how you cover this question. So I have seen that reverse a string is some question that has been asked multiple times in every Accenture interview. So just get well versed with these really basic technical questions, like the coding questions. So start with a brute force approach and then go ahead and tell them what approaches you can think of. So this is how you cover. This is how the approach should be when you are covering any technical question which asks you for code or pseudocode. Okay. Now there are also some questions asked which are probability based. Okay. So now say there are 3 red balls. Okay. And there are 4 blue balls here in the question and 5 white balls. So whenever you have to solve these probability questions, right, what you're going to do is you're going to calculate total number of balls in the bag. 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 12. Which this is the total balls. Okay. Now, in order to find the probability, the formula used is, now here they're asking for a red ball. Total number of balls asked. So how many do we have in red? 3, right? Divided by total balls. How many balls do we have here in total, which is 12. So, and if you do the math, it is 1 by 4. So the answer to this is 1 by 4. So every time you are solving the probability based questions, remember that the formula is number of, the color that is asked has to go on top, which is becomes your numerator. See, asked divided by total. Okay, this is how you solve all your probability based questions. This was the solution to it. So the next question is write an SQL query to fetch duplicate records. So you can, so this is like for the analyst role where they're asking for the SQL queries where you can write the duplicate records. So there's one approach where you can count if it is greater than 1. You can go with this. You can select the records where whoever count is greater than 1. So this is one of the approaches that you can use. And the 5th question is, if you were to make only 3 cuts to a whole cake. This is again one of these questions which is asked to like see how how are you going to approach these problems, right? So let's try to understand this question. You can make 3 cuts to a whole cake, but you have to get 8 slices. How do you do that? So now let's imagine that there is a cake here. Okay. I know most of you are going to imagine it in 1D. That's why you won't be able to do it. So let's try to imagine it in 3D. This is my cake. Okay. So you have to make only 3 cuts. So now if I make cuts like this, think about this. 1, 2. So now you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 slices. But if I cut it in between, middle, right, like this, then how many will we have? 8, because these 4 pieces are divided into 2 now, which becomes 8 slices. So 2 on the top, 1 on the bottom. If you cut this way, then you will get 8 slices. So this is how you have to approach. These are like trick-based questions. You have to use your brain a little bit, and that's when you will be able to solve these questions. So these are some of the questions asked. And let's look at the last question. How would you solve conflicts? So conflict-based questions are going to be like, say your team manager does not help you at all because he is busy with his own task. But there is something that you have to convey, right? You have to convey there is like a dependency. How will you tackle that? So in these kind of questions, you have to always be very diplomatic. Try to think of how and what balance you can strike so you don't cause any harm to your personal life or to the company, right? For example, say your mother is very sick, mother is sick, okay, and you have an important task at the office which you cannot delegate or which you cannot postpone. How are you going to approach that? So these are the questions that are going to be asked under the conflict area. Okay, so these, now we have checked that we have looked after some of the Accenture technical questions and some of the questions that we have tried to get from the survey. So let's move to some generic questions. Okay, what do you know about your company? Say I am giving an interview for GE, right? It is a very, very good practice to already know a little bit about the company. Okay. So now if I'm going for GE, then what you have to do a little bit of research before giving any interview. Now, for example, Accenture, if I'm giving, right? Just go to Chrome, try to search a little bit about Accenture, what it does, what products it, like now, if you know Accenture is a service-based company, try to know about the clients that Accenture has and how long it has been established for, and some of these points should be covered. So what you can do is every time you are asked that, quickly go to Google and try to, like, for example, now we're talking about Accenture info, I'm going to type, and then you will get to know about Accenture via Wikipedia. So now you can just like, what has happened to this? Wikipedia cannot be sold. Okay. Let's move to the next part. So you can just go know a little bit about Wikipedia here. Okay. So now this is covered. No, it's always a good practice to know a little bit about the company. Why do you want this job? What do you bring to the table? You now the interviewer is always going to ask you why do you want this job and what do you bring to the table. So if you have relevant skills on basis of whatever role you are asked, say you are being hired as an analyst or an engineer, whatever relevant roles you have, you can talk about them. I am very well versed with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I have worked on these projects. I really have very good skill set. So I think I will be a good fit for your company. And I always do my tasks on work. I don't delegate my tasks. So that's why I think I'm a good fit for this one. And I want this job because my goals and whatever I want to be in future, it aligns with the company's values. And that's why I want to be here. I want to be hired. So this is how you're going to approach these kind of questions. Okay. Next is, what is your strength and weakness? Okay. When they ask you about the strength, you can directly tell them what your strengths are. For example, my strength is, say, my emotional intelligence, or say how I keep calm during like the tough situations, or say my strengths are, to be able to deal with difficult people and all of that. Whatever your strengths are, right? You can talk about them without any hesitation. But when it comes to weakness, there's a specific pattern that we follow and you have to know it. When you talk about your weakness, say you are somebody who has anger issues, okay? So if you have anger issues, then you talk about the weakness. Then you also talk about the approach that you've taken in order to overcome it. For example, I used to have anger issues a lot. I think that is my weakness. But now I'm taking appropriate measures in order to overcome that. For example, last time I got really angry, I tried to sit myself down, I drank some water, and I told myself that being angry at this situation is not going to fetch me anything. So that's why I try to have self-talk and I try to overcome that. So the weakness or any negative aspect of the interview should always be covered with something positive, with how you are working on it. So that is the right approach to cover anything negative. The next question is, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? So I think I have made one common mistake during my interviews. So if you're honest about what your personal goals are in the next 5 years, then it is going to be a problem. Say if I say that I want to do my master's in the next 3 years, and then I want to move abroad or something like that, then the interviewer is going to think that you're somebody volatile. You can't be relied on because you're going to leave the company anyway. So when they ask you these kind of questions, always remember that your answer has to be in the favor of the company. For example, when they ask me this question now, I think I would work on my skill set. I would try to work on as many technologies as possible. I would upskill myself. And probably in the next 5 years, I would be promoted and I would be taking care of a team. This is what you're going to talk about when they ask you for the next 5 years questions or next 10 years questions, next 2 years questions. Always be diplomatic, and your answer should be in the favor of a company. Okay. So the next question is, what are your expectations? So the interviewer will always expect you to have some opinion. It's not like, he will just tell something and you will agree with it. That doesn't happen. So when he asks you about your expectations, what you can answer is, I want to grow, I want to learn a lot of skills, I want to have work-life balance, I want to be able to be a part of good team, contribute to the company, contribute to the team, or whatever, whatever goes in the company's favor, that will help you get this job better. Next is conflict-based questions. I think we've already covered that. So you will be given a situation where there could be conflicts, and you have to be very diplomatic again. You have to give an answer where you aren't causing any harm to the company, but you also are taking care of your personal life. So this is how the conflict-based questions are going to be solved. Next is role-based. If you're being hired as a web developer, say front-end developer or web developer, so role-based questions means that you are going to be asked questions where, you are going to be in this role. What features can you add? What enhancements can you make? How can you contribute to the team? All of these questions are going to be asked on the basis of the role that you're being hired for. What relevant skills do you have, and all of that. So if the interviewer is nice, they want to know you personally, they'll also ask you about your hobbies, like what do you do, and all of that. My personal suggestion is, always talk about things that will help you get the interview. For example, say my hobby is to I travel a lot for a new perception. It will give me a new perspective towards life, and that will help me be able to deal with people better. That's why I think I have good skills, I have good interpersonal skills, I'm able to deal with people well. All of this comes and, try to be diplomatic. Like, for example, I love working out, I have very strong work ethic, and that's why I always, I'm very consistent. All of these things can be covered under the hobby section. So after talking to multiple people and after having these questions gathered, one thing that we have realized is that we've tried to understand the Accenture's hiring process. Okay. So this is what Accenture does in its hiring process. They don't ask those many technical questions. Technical questions are very, very basic. Pseudocodes or very basic codes, or they're asking you for some of these tricky questions where you have to use your brains a little bit, aptitude questions. All of these are going to be asked. So these are the questions that are covered. They don't ask technical questions that much in the Accenture's hiring process. Project related questions, they ask you, the probability of asking project related questions is 100%. So the projects that you have mentioned on your resume are definitely going to be discussed. Roles and challenges faced. So this also comes under your projects, and this also comes under your, the whatever role you're getting hired for. So you have to be very well versed with that. And if you have worked on the project thoroughly, you will definitely be able to answer these questions. So behavioral and situation-based questions, we have tried talking about conflicts, about the hobbies and the situations given. So all of these is going to, these questions are going to be covered under this section. So each interview, because this is a hiring drive, so many people are being interviewed. So mostly each interview is only, each interview only lasts for 15 to 20 minutes. So that's why know that your interview is going to be very short, but it is going to be crisp and clear. And these are the topics that are going to be asked. So be prepared for them. Okay. So because this is a drive, so many people give the interviews each day. They interview hundreds and thousands of people every day. So that's why the time is limited. So last thing that we've noticed is they are preferring female candidates over male candidates because they have to fill the diversity gap. So usually all of these companies have to strike the gender ratio. So they should try to hire equal number of men and women. So that's why they're currently preferring women to fill the diversity gap. So this is all that we had for, today. So what we can do is, so that's all we have. All right. So these are some of the questions that have been asked in the interviews. So that's all I have to say for today. This is how the Accenture process is going on. These are the questions that have been asked, and these are the conclusions that we've been able to withdraw. So I want all of you to go through the video and prepare accordingly, so you aren't wasting time on the questions that are not being asked, but you're also very well versed with what is being asked.